Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and today we're going to do a video that's a little bit more fun. Now, as many of you know, I've played Final Fantasy XIV since back in 1.0, and given that I've made so much content about the game on YouTube, I think a lot of people think that I just know everything about Final Fantasy XIV. Truth of the matter is like many of you, there are things I forget or don't know, and I learn some of those things every now and again. Well, someone told me about this Reddit thread that popped up a little bit less than a day ago as of recording. That's called "What is something that took you an embarrassingly long time to discover?" 632 comments as I'm looking at it now. And we have this initial post. For myself, I didn't realize there were inns in Kugane and Ishgard until after I started Endwalker. Anytime I needed to go to an inn, I'd go to Limsa or Crystarium. You know, fair, I never went to the Ishgard or Kugane Inn, or at least not any time that I can remember. But this is an interesting premise, because if there's anything I've learned in making videos, it's that there's a ton of things people just don't know about Final Fantasy XIV, or just don't have enough insight into. So, I want to scroll through some of these comments and see if there's anything that they don't know that I don't know. And so that way I can learn something new from this thread as well. And if there's something that you'd like to share, you can go directly to this thread and post it there, or post it in the comment section of the video below. And if there's anything that they post that you didn't know, be sure to give them credit where credit's due, because there's got to be something in here. And I'm sure it's going to be crafting or gathering related, but let's check it out. All right, so let's just go straight to the first comment. You can drag crafting recipes onto... I didn't know. Well, that didn't take very long. I said it would be crafting or gathering related. I didn't know you could do that. Press them immediately to pull up said recipe. I had multiple... Okay, yeah, the comment right there. I was today years old when I found that out. I've been playing since launch. Thank you. I guess that's just video over. I learned something new pretty much immediately. I don't do like any crafting at all. Like I have crafted, but it's out of necessity. Most of the time it's just, you know, tribal quests, beast tribe quests as they have been over the years. And I don't really do it on my own. In fact, most of my crafting leveling is me paying people to make items and then I turn them in, or maybe, you know, custom deliveries, whatnot. But I mean, that's one new thing that I've learned already. So let's see what else there is. Okay, I've seen a lot of people. I remember there was a thread when this first started being a thing. Wanderer and Traveler was not an FC. Yeah, you know, I've seen this one before, so this one really doesn't surprise me all that much. I've had people ask while I'm live, like, why is your FC's name Wanderer? And I'm like, that's not the FC name. It's also, I've seen the same thing, Wanderer and Traveler, also not as a title, because some people just mix it up. So I've seen that a few times, but fortunately, I knew that one. Oh, you know, I saw this one actually not too long ago. I didn't know you can sell cards you already own for MGP until someone casually mentioned it in the WAD raid. I played the game for almost a year then. Yeah, no, I know a lot of people. Sometimes when I'm live and I just go to the NPC and sell them, people say, oh, I didn't know you could do that. I think there's also a check mark next to them if you already have them in the UI. So that's another thing I think a lot of people miss. It might be, is it those or is it orchestrions? Might be both even, but yeah, there's also ways to track which ones you already have just from the UI itself. But yeah, no, this one's another common one. A lot of people don't mess around with gold saucer stuff, so I'm not really that surprised. Ooh, oh, this one, yeah, ouch is right. Tombstone Gear had accessories. Didn't find this out until I beat Stormblood and was in 4.1. I'll give them a little bit of credit. So they said they didn't find this out till they beat Stormblood. Maybe they didn't start playing till Stormblood, meaning that they just didn't know it for 50, 60, and then consequentially, I suppose, 70 for a few months. Because there's not really a tutorial for Tombstone Gear. You kind of just have to click through the different tabs. And if you never click the accessory tab, then I guess it makes sense that you would never know that they were there. I wonder if they have considered adding, because you can like click through tabs that don't have anything, I think, on a lot of the NPCs that deal with currencies. I wonder if they just thought about graying out the ones that have nothing and then just leaving those other ones kind of, clickable. So that way, if a player doesn't know or is just like seeing an NPC for the first time, they could be like informed in that way. I'd have to double check because I haven't bought anything from the Tombstone vendor in a while. This is one that I always tell people. Aetheryte tickets exist and are surprisingly easy to get. I don't know how much I spent on teleports, but I started when Heavensward was present content and just discovered tickets 2 months ago. Aetheryte tickets are one of the biggest reasons why I have so much gil. I haven't paid for a teleport in like 8 years now. If you don't know about them, I have a whole video on the hunt in particular, and I also mention it in my Blue Mage videos, I believe. But essentially, you can exchange the old world hunt currencies, the allied seals and centurio seals, for Aetheryte tickets at an exchange rate of 5 seals to 1 ticket. So even just doing your weekly hunts, you know, at the boards and doing your Blue Mage every week, just going into the carnival, you get a bunch of free teleports. If you just go to a few old world S ranks or even just kill the occasional A rank, that's just free teleports on free teleports on free teleports. So that's definitely a big one. And if you don't do the hunt, even the old world hunts, I would highly advise getting involved if you're tired of paying for teleports. Oh man, every tank has had to explain this to a new tank. This is a totally normal one. Arm's length slows down how often an enemy attacks you, not their movement speed. I've seen people just not even know that it has another effect other than the knockback. Essentially, people get like secondhand knowledge. Oh, arm's length is really important for knockback resist, and then they never look at it. But arm's length is one of the most like underrated defensive cooldowns as a tank. It is phenomenally good, especially when paired with weaker personal cooldowns when you're doing wall to walls and back to back wall to walls. So highly advise using arm's length as a tank when you are pulling dungeons. This one's a little longer. You can synchronize your crafter hotbars by typing a command into chat or making a macro which copies your buttons from a specific crafter onto your currently equipped class. Here's an example which copies hotbar 1 from culinarian onto whatever class. So this is something I really learned maybe 4 or 5 years ago, because I do something similar to actually set up my hotbars for jobs. It's not the exact same action, but it kind of falls into that same subcategory of hotbar chat commands or macros. Basically, what the last couple of years or the last couple of expansions, I've been privileged enough to be able to check out the expansion jobs for the media tour, so I get to basically play them a little bit in advance, as well as a bunch of other creators. And what I do after that is I look at all the skills and I try to think of how I would put them on my hotbar, and I actually make macros for those jobs and the hotbars. Now I also do that for the new jobs, Reaper and Sage. I made hotbar macros in advance, so I just wouldn't have to worry about it. I could just press a button and bam, I would have all of my keys set, as long as they didn't change the name of any skills. So yeah, no, that's one I actually learned, you know, only a few years ago, but that's one I expect a lot of people don't know, because chat commands and text commands and all that, there's so many of them, it's really hard to know all of them. I just recently found out that you can also vendor stuff out of retainer. That hasn't always been there. And honestly, even though you can do that, a lot of the times I just don't. I still kind of like out of habit go from my retainer to NPCs to vendor sometimes. I've started getting a little bit better at it, actually, very recently. I always drag things I wanted to sell into the retainer window to sell on the market board, so I never paid attention to the menu you get when you right-click items. Have retainer sell items will sell things as you would when talking to any other merchant. Yeah, the name of that command really doesn't do it any favors either. So no, this one I think is another completely reasonable one. You'd have to have really been playing when this was first incorporated and be someone who reads every single set of patch notes and understands what they're saying. So again, I don't think this one's too unusual, and I'm sure a lot of people, again, didn't know that. Oh, this one's interesting. You don't have to move your camera for look away mechanics. I would have my character and my camera turned away. So this is something that you can kind of tell what control scheme people use when they do this. If you're a legacy player, you're probably very used to, if you know how the mechanics work, just literally tapping, you know, tapping S or, you know, down on an analog stick on a controller and looking away. It's one of the big advantages of legacy is just being able to outright turn around instead of backpedal. For me, I play legacy, so for me, I do turn the camera because I pretty much change the way my character's facing almost exclusively by holding right click. So yeah, while that is absolutely true, it does depend on your control scheme. That's gonna change the way you kind of interpret that one. But again, I think that's it's funny that they didn't. It seems more like they didn't realize their control scheme allows their character to turn without turning the camera. But actually, I don't know, because they said I would have my character and camera turned away. So it sounds like they may have gone out of their way to actually do both, which is An interesting way of interpreting the mechanic. Don't look at it. If you look at it in real life, you die in game. Can't have that. Oh yeah, this one doesn't surprise me. 5,900 and some hours, and last week, someone from, wait a minute, you knew you had 5,900 hours on the spot. Like, you knew that when you typed that, but you didn't know the remaining 2 digits. I can't really give them much grief. I don't even know what my hours or days are at the moment. Do you know that when you hold control with the map open, the teleports are highlighted? Yeah, this is something... You know what's funny? I knew this for a very long time, but much like with the retainer being able to sell, I just didn't do it. It's one of those things, sometimes you just can't convince your brain to do things in a more efficient manner. But yeah, if you hold control with the map open, the teleports basically get brought to the front, so they're easier to click. It's less that they're highlighted and more that they're brought to the front above any other icons that are on the map. Another thing, when you hold control and right click, you can put down a flag. And I actually use that as a little trick inside of raids. If you're like doing Party Finder a lot and you're constantly changing position and you need like an extra visual reminder that, oh, in the last party I was southwest, but in this party I'm southeast, I put a little flag down as a reminder for myself. So I have another visual representation. I started in Shadowbringers, and I learned there was a party alliance chat after I beat Shadowbringers. I was using say for everything. You know what, though? I mean, they were typing, which is more than I can say for a lot of party content, so I can't even really fault them. I think the only time something like this is awkward, I don't even think that's that awkward, because you should be standing in range of everyone anyway in most alliance raids. What's weird is when you try to send someone a tell, and they respond to you in say, because then they look like they're crazy. And I've seen that. I've seen a lot of players who are brand new, maybe not just to Final Fantasy 14, but to MMOs in general. They just start typing. They don't know that there's tell and shout and say. So this actually, it sounds a little bit funny, but again, this isn't something that really surprises me, nor do I think it's even that embarrassing. I put this in another thread. There's another thread, maybe another video, but I have 1,200 plus hours in the game, and I opened my mouth and criticized the Black Mage for not using Swiftcast to... I should have seen that one coming as soon as I saw Swiftcast. I should have even needed to read the next 2 words. For not using Swiftcast to revive when both healers were dead during an Eden raid. Holy shit, the flame I received after that, I deserved. I literally had no idea they were the only caster without a raise. I mean, if you don't play a job and the 2 of the 3 casters, this is something I get. Yeah, yes, it's absolutely embarrassing. Yes, it's one of those things where somebody thinks they know, but they don't know. And this person totally okay with admitting that they made a big fool's mistake. But I mean, if I was brand new to the game and I was introduced to Summoner and Red Mage and I was told they have combat reses, but I was never told Black Mage didn't have one, I would think that's a completely reasonable thing to not be able to figure out. So no, I wouldn't flame you. I'd be like, that's not how that works. But no, totally deserved flame for being adamant that the Black Mage was misplaying. You had that one coming. 100 plus hours into the game, I thought you could only use the big aetherite in towns to go to the small ones. So I keep running or teleporting back to it to teleport to the small ones. You know, I also have weird habits, and not quite like that, because that's just not knowing how it works. But I sometimes just run through towns and pretend the ethernets aren't there. And it's not like I don't want to use them. When I remember to use them, I go through. But there are some towns like, I don't know, Kugane is one of them. There's a few where I just don't use the ethernet. A part of me kind of likes the idea of running through town. You know, it's a little bit more immersive than just teleporting all over the place. But yeah, I know, it's a system pretty specific to 14, so depending on how much you paid attention during the intro quest, or if you skip them altogether, that's something you could miss, and it's kind of reasonable. I was 5 raid tiers deep in this game before I learned about the limited setting. Yo, I can't imagine what it looks like doing some things on full. I just can't imagine it at all. Dude, sometimes I have it on limited and I think I'm seeing too many things, but that's usually because the boss is doing a lot of stuff. Imagine being set to full, getting into a 24-man with like 6 or 7 summoners, not to mention everyone else. You're done. That's it. You're gonna need to go to an eye doctor after that, because you're just not gonna be able to see anything. Oh man, while we have the Chocobo Companion past level 10 by feeding it a Thevnarian onion, that I totally get. That's been such an abandoned system. I totally understand someone not knowing that. But I share my limit break bar with my party. That's not as surprising as people think. So many new players, again, they don't read absolutely everything. So when they get the limit break and the gauge fills up, they go, yeah! It's not till somebody else does it instead of you where a lot of people actually figure it out. And even then, sometimes people just aren't paying attention. So not too bad. All right, we're going to do a couple more and then we'll call it because there's, like I said, there's 600 comments. I don't know how many of them are still below this one and how many are responses to the ones we've already read. This is super embarrassing, but I played Bard for a good couple hundred hours thinking that the songs had some sort of cumulative effect when played at once. Oh, this must have been torture. Like, depending on what order you played them, you'd get different. Oh, you know what? You might just be looking at the future of Bard, as far as I'm concerned. Listen, we're one step away from that being the reality of Bard. Maybe 7.0, they will be correct, and then they'll come back and read this, be like, I knew it. So at the start of every fight, I play them all back to back to only ever get the effects of one song and then a long cooldown. Listen, it already sucks rotating through songs on Bard. They've eliminated the problem. If you press them all at once, you don't have to worry about it. You get a fully stacked Radiant Finale at the start. You don't have to worry about song timings at all, and you just play the game. So I think they're just playing the job from the future as far as I'm concerned. We got a couple of ones with like some unloaded comments here, but Party Finder, I went 2 years. Wait, you didn't know about the Party Finder for 2 years? Oh boy. I went 2 years playing the game and doing extremes through Duty Finder, suffering through hours in queue only for a friend to go, you could just do this in Party Finder. So funnily enough, in Japan, they actually do use the Duty and Raid Finders for content. A lot of the times you go through those, and as long as everyone knows the standard strat, it's actually a very high success rate, even for high-level content. In Party Finder, you more often see practice parties. You do see clear parties, but more often like first clears and the occasional like farm party there. But most people are comfortable enough going into Raid Finder, and just that's how they do it over there. So if anything, I kind of wish what this person's embarrassed about was the norm. I wish Raid Finder was more frequently used for high-end activities and not just the method with which a pre-made party enters, because I think it'd just be better, in my opinion. You know, while these are sandwiched between a couple of them, I'm actually going to take this as the last one for the video. You can buy untradeable minions from a magic pot on the Isle of Umbra for an elixir or high elixir. Had no idea this NPC existed. It's still kind of weird where that NPC is and why. The rewards are fairly useful. People use them, or used to use them more so for lighting purposes, for screenshots, and you sometimes still can. But yeah, there's a couple of free minions just over in the Isle of Umbra, and I'm sure plenty of people don't know that. So if you're watching this and you didn't know that, then go get a couple of minions. And that's going to be a wrap for my video. Hopefully you learned something new, and if I see interesting threads like this, we'll be sure to give them a look. While I don't usually do too much React style content, I do like to inform people about things they may not have known or things that they historically weren't around for. Hence the retrospective series that we've been uploading on the YouTube channel that I hope all of you are enjoying. Anyway, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you for more videos in the future. Until then, take care.